Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for meeting us here and joining our Called to Heal webinar, Serving Others Through Counseling or Psychology. We have created this webinar especially for our friends at Focus. We love our Focus students, and we look forward to sharing some information with you to help you discern the next steps in your vocation. There are 4 of us presenting the webinar today. All of us well-versed in one program or another at Divine Mercy University, some of us 2 programs. My name's Julie. I'm an admissions counselor for the Masters in Counseling program. My teammate in recruiting for counseling is Steve Showalter. He's also an expert in our Masters in Psychology, as is Greg Shapiro. Greg's pretty new to DMU. He's a great addition to our team, and he is an expert in Masters in Psychology as well. And then, of course, the lovely Tambi Kilhefner. Many of you know Tambi and are friends with her. She is, in addition to being our AVP of admissions, she's also our resident expert on our doctorate in clinical psychology program.
All right. So I'm going to just take a moment to go over the agenda for everyone. So we're going to go over 6 items plus a Q&A at the end. So the first thing we're going to go over would be our mission and accreditation. So this will just give you a sense of who we are and our history. After that, we're going to go over what makes DMU unique. It's going to cover the faith component partnered with our high standards of the social sciences. After that, we're going to cover the importance of faith, healing, and science. We'll go over some stats and the strengths that we do hold with that. And then we're going to follow that up with the DMU program overview. We're going to discuss the different programs we offer and go into more detail with that. After that, we're going to go over the student experience. You'll get a good sense of what the programs are going to look like for you as a student. Lastly, we're going to go into making grad school affordable and scholarships. So that'll cover the tuition details and how tuition can be reduced. And then, of course, afterwards, we're going to open it up to a Q&A.
All right, it's Julie again, and thank you again for attending our webinar. We'd like to introduce Divine Mercy University to you. Our school was actually founded in the late 90s under the name Institute for the Psychological Sciences. That college still exists. A lot of people still know us by that name. So if you happen to see IPS or Institute for the Psychological Sciences around, that's still us, that's still DMU. That college at DMU houses our psychology side. So we have a doctorate in clinical psychology, and after offering that program for a few years, they launched in 2014 our online Masters in Psychology. Masters in Psychology is a non-clinical degree. It has a focus on people who already have a career that they love and want to grow in, but if they need a greater insight into the person, into the way the mind works, into the way groups function, this is an excellent program for those type of professionals who need greater, expertise in their field and need training at the master's level. Offering those 2 programs, what DMU found was that there was a need for counselors, and particularly for counselors of faith. So they decided to go ahead and add the second college, the School of Counseling, and the Masters in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. So when a school has more than one college, that's the point at which they take a university name. So that's how we went from being plain old IPS, or Institute for the Psychological Sciences, to Divine Mercy University. We seek to provide our students an effective educational environment to integrate the human sciences and a Catholic Christian understanding of the person. In addition, our school is accredited. We are regionally accredited, which is the baseline you should look for in any U.S. school you attend. So if you're shopping around comparing colleges and another school you're looking at can't give you a simple yes to the regional accreditation question, that's your signal to go very quickly in the opposite direction. So you want at least regional accreditation, and DMU is regionally accredited. We are also accredited by the American Psychological Association, which is an extra accreditation that can be earned for schools that work in the field of psychology. Our school did earn APA accreditation back in 2016, I want to say. We became only the second school in the whole history of the APA to receive the full 7-year accreditation grant on the first try. So we are an outstanding program with well-known accreditations.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Julie. This is Tamby here, and I'm going to just talk to all of you a little bit and share with you about the factor that really does make us so very unique. And some of you have heard of this, but it's definitely worth our time to review this and understand a little bit more. And what it is that makes us so unique is what you may have heard in previous presentations or emails is it's the Catholic Christian meta model of the person. We're really excited. You can see here a little snapshot of the book. This is actually a published book. We're actually really excited. It's already an award winner. It's been out less than a year, but that is the written book format of our model. It is the sole focus of how we pursue psychology and counseling, those educational areas. Again, it's something that is completely unique and really an absolute hallmark of our university, and then subsequently a hallmark for each of our programs. Do encourage you to read the 4 points in front of you while I do share a little bit more on this, just to enhance a little more knowledge on the model. The model really provides our students and future professionals with a significant sort of a developed perspective from day one that other professionals in the field often can't gain for years. And even when they do, it's more of an individual journey. There isn't really a model to work off. And of course, there's not the integration, that philosophical and theological anthropology to build on. But there is that recognition that there's more here. There's more to this science. And what is that? And here at DMU, we are so fortunate that we give that to our students upfront without reserve through this specifically and very intentionally written meta model of the person. One of the things that I like to share on this is that I believe that this meta model, just through the simple knowledge obtained through studying it, it just simply demands that the practitioner inherently view the person differently from day one. It demands that, just again, through that knowledge base, that we view the person more holistically, more completely, and beyond a set of behaviors or beyond a mere need to adapt to an environment or a situation. It really views and teaches truth of situations and works with the client on recognizing their situation in light of truth that we again, things we know to be true about the human person and that shared human experience. It really does come from that Catholic philosophical and theological understanding of the person. So I think that to me sort of is a good, rich way of distinguishing, again, what makes us so unique and describing a little bit for you, this meta model. And just from a practical angle, some highlights here that you probably already have read, but again, we talked about it being fully integrated with philosophy and theology. And it really is important to understand that this model transforms you. It transforms the student and the future practitioner. That's the root of it. It's not something where you're like, oh, I'm going to go change my client. Well, of course, that's the hope, is that you're not necessarily changing, but you're working with your client to holistic, healing and flourishing. But it's you that is changed because you know now how to do that very specifically, very thoroughly, and very deeply, where other professional settings don't offer that, or other educational paths simply don't offer that. And again, it offers that vision that recognizes the God-given inherent dignity and integrity of each person. And further, this is kind of a little side, but I think it's important to note that through this meta model, by just being here, being in this educational environment, from day one, you're really building a lifetime network of colleagues and professionals who support your passion to serve from this perspective. And I think especially as missionaries, individuals working with focus, you can probably all relate to that very well just through your focus network. Well, that is very, very similar in its application here at DMU and studying, again, this kind of a specific method by which to help the human person flourish. So with that, we're going to move forward, and we're going to talk a little bit more about our faculty. That's another really unique attribute for us as faculty. Here are just 4 faculty. There's many that we can highlight. We're going to talk a little bit about these 4 faculty here, but most importantly, what I'm hoping to share today is that our faculty really are individuals who are committed to this model of integration. Every one of them here, we're so fortunate that they're all very successful in their own right, but they are here specifically at DMU because they have a deep passion for this model of integration, and they know how unique this is in the field of higher education and even further in the fields of psychology and counseling. So just to highlight a little bit here, we have Dr. Craig Titus. He is our in-house, I would say our resident philosopher, theologian. He is our expert on integration. So he has a background that includes research in virtue theory, emotional and moral development, psychology of virtue, and of course, integration. So again, a great fit for us. And he's been with us for a long time now, almost since our founding, and again, has been absolutely central to the development, the meticulous development of our model of integration. Next year, we have Dr. William Nordling. Again, some of you might be familiar with him. He's done a number of videos. He's a founding faculty member. Dr. Nordling was actually is a trained psychologist, trained obviously outside of DMU in what you could say is a more secular model. And again, along with other founding faculty members, noted that in his practice, there was just something missing, that a greater depth needed to be explored and brought forth. And he, along with other psychologists, teamed up and ultimately developed the meta model, again, alongside Dr. Titus and others. And the university was essentially born out of their work. Interesting about Dr. Nordling here, it's kind of fun. He's actually known in his own right as a psychologist for working and developing child play therapy, the work with children through play therapy, and really advancements specifically in healing and flourishing in children that can come forth through specifically really developed play therapy models. So that's sort of his specialty that he brings forth. And again, really valuable to us, especially because we certainly value the work with families here at DMU. Next, we see Dr. Benjamin Keys. He is a faculty member with our counseling program. He's also founded and directed here in-house our trauma and resiliency training center. And his specialties do include, of course, therefore, trauma and resiliency and flourishing after trauma. Through the Green Cross, which again, we have a site here at DMU, he actually hosts missions across the world, training individuals in other parts of the world on trauma, on healing, and resilience. Most recently, they've had mission trips to Syria. Again, if you guys can just imagine the trauma in Syria right now and the work that can come forth in teaching people on the ground in Syria how to really help individuals suffering with trauma. So again, a really beautiful program and a great faculty member. I'm really glad to have Dr. Keys here and those contributions. Some of you who were at Focus last year, Focus 2020, might actually remember some of our students specifically associated with the Trauma and Resiliency Center were actually deployed and worked at Focus in 2020. You might remember them, and they actually helped triage some mental health issues on the ground. And interestingly enough, not all of individuals who go through trauma training need to actually be necessarily preparing for clinical psychology practice or counseling practice. Some of those opportunities are open to lay folks as well. And finally, we have Dr. Julia Clousley. She's the director of our MSP program, and she has extensive research in the area of parenting and family processes and father care, as well as effects of relationship-focused child care for low-income and ethnically diverse families. And since being at DMU, she's been really excited to not only direct a program for us, but she's actually been able here to have some additional freedom and really diving into her research interests in spirituality and depression in college students. And you guys will all appreciate this one, and approaches to self-care among individuals who work full-time in ministry. So again, I'm speaking to the right audience here when I share a little bit about Dr. Clousley. So again, just highlighting a few of our faculty here and also some attributes of our university along the way. So we're going to go ahead and move to the next slide here. So this is just an interesting slide just to talk about here. My hope with this slide is to share with you about how really about how DMU and specifically how you, as somebody who's already in the mission field, already in and feels called to serve others, how specifically that's just expanded for our church and for our world, through this educational path. There's a study that found that people are more likely to seek out support from clergy or members of their church than specifically to go to a mental health professional first. Now you might say, okay, what does that mean for me as somebody who's considering, a professional degree? What that means is that you, by already having activity in a ministry and activity in your church, that you're actually providing, if you will, a catalyst by which people can start to seek out the more assistance that they're likely needing to heal from certain kinds of mental health challenges. Again, as being a known factor in the community, by that very nature, there's some trust there. You can actually even supplement the work of clergy and religious with your psychology and counseling skills. We actually see that a lot. As you all, again, I'm speaking to a group of folks that understand mission and ministry really well. You all know that our clergy are really overwhelmed with their need for ministry, for even addressing mental health challenges, and they own themselves. They're not equipped to necessarily handle all of those things. So they do seek out individuals within their community who could take on that workload and really professionalize it. So again, folks who, more specifically, who may need not just spiritual direction or some guidance, who really need further assistance through mental health counseling or therapy. Your clergy will often reach out to you and ask for that support in all kinds of ways, from just being available as a therapist, but to giving talks, to presenting to the parish. Again, all kinds of pathways here. So this is just an example of how you, specifically as someone in the church, can enhance trust and strengthen relationships so those who need care the most are more comfortable seeking that care. We're going to go ahead and build on this slide a little bit more and talk about just really the importance of integrating faith, reason, and science. So interesting data here. So 71% of non-DNU therapists, so therapists outside of a training model like ours who were surveyed, received no clinical training or preparation whatsoever to understand or respect their clients' religious beliefs and treatment. Further, 36% felt uncomfortable addressing spirituality or religion if the topic arose. Again, this is a survey done outside of DNU, but we really believe, and we know inherently that our students and graduates are able to serve the whole person through direct and indirect recognition of spirituality. And again, speaking to very well-formed missionaries here and individuals involved with Focus, I do believe that you understand that, and you probably further understand how an anthropology like ours can really impact individuals in the clinical or in the service setting. So some of you who've previously had, again, you've all been formed pretty well for Focus, very well, in fact. You know that the root of the human person, we are children of God. That is inherent in all of us, really, whether we personally recognize that or not. It doesn't need to be said, right? But as a DNU professional, through this meta model, we're able to draw on how this intrinsic truth can draw on that in a way that is not confused. It can be both direct and indirect, and it's led by those we work with. So we can really meet those we serve where they are, and that's a key, really, to helping our clients flourish. Is we have that confidence. We don't have the fears. We're not uncomfortable, and we know how to do it, again, directly or indirectly. And that's really the message here of this particular slide, is just recognizing that uniqueness that we can offer through this program. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn it over to Steve, and I believe we have a question for all of you guys that we would like to ask you.
Okay, thank you, Tamby, and this is Steve, and welcome to all of you. And now we're going to have a little bit of group participation and interaction. So, just put down your coffee cup, and for those that are working remotely, run in out of the kitchen, back to your computer. And what we'd like for you to do in the poll, and hopefully it'll come up here soon, we would like you to annotate which attribute do you closely relate to as a healer. There we are. Okay, if you could, and as you are deciding which one, and you may have many of those, you'll be bringing those skills that are time tested and for some of you battle worn to your first day of class. And throughout the program, we'll be taking those current attributes and elevating them to the professional level. So it'll truly give you those tools that you can go out and help heal. We'll just give you a few more minutes to choose which ones, and then we'll go ahead and post the results. Okay, as we're tabulating the reports, we'll go ahead and move on to our next slide. So if Greg, if you could go ahead, take it away, and we will announce the final total here in a minute.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Steve. So jumping into the programs that we offer, we're gonna, of course, start with the Master's in Psychology program. This is, as Julie highlighted at the beginning, I'm the admissions advisor for this program in particular. So I talk about this one on a daily basis. And one thing I want to highlight with this one, separate from all the other programs, is that this one is 100% online. It is from beginning to end done, whether it's from the comfort of your own home or if you're traveling, you can complete this degree without having to come to campus or participate in any sort of residencies or field experience like practicum and internship. So there's a lot of flexibility there. It's also asynchronous. So there are no specific live times where you have to participate. It's really up to you when works within your daily schedule. If mornings are better for you, if you're one that wakes up at 5 in the morning and you're just more productive at that time, this program you're able to complete that program within that sort of time span. If you're one that does work before going to bed, you have that option as well. It's completely up to you. So going along with that, I'm just going to be highlighting each of these 5 tabs and going a little bit more into detail. So the first one, learn counseling techniques in a non-licensed capacity to better serve individuals within your organization. So just to build on top of that a little bit more, this is great for those that want to apply this within ministry, within missionary work, or even outside of that, if you're looking to use this within behavioral centers or within the capacity of an HR representative. This is excellent because you'll still get those skills to work with those individuals and learning about their needs and better counseling them. We have a lot of consecrated religious, we have a lot of lay people, whether they are religious lay or not, they use this degree in multiple different directions, including within a ministry capacity. And going a little bit further into that, just jumping into the second tab, we also have education and training to recognize mental health challenges. So just to go a little bit more into this, it's a very important position to have, to be able to recognize these things, even if you are doing this as a non-licensed professional. And the reason why is because sometimes they just need that first step. For many people, it might be that they actually do need to go further in working with a licensed professional, whether that's a licensed professional counselor or a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist. It's a good idea to it's good that you'll be able to recognize what their needs are, so you can refer them to these professionals if that's needed. And going a little bit further than that, just going into the third tab, build effective integrative leadership skills so as to lead a team of diverse talents and qualities. This is just a great quality to have as a leader, to have a good sense of just how everybody does function differently. They think differently. Maybe they have different needs, and being a leader and recognizing these things, understanding that everybody has the same dignity, but nonetheless, we're all made differently. And just being a good leader also means being able to recognize the needs of everyone that you're leading. But not only that, passing along this information to those so that one day they may be able to lead as well. And going into the fourth tab, this is a cohort-driven program with well-credentialed and responsive faculty. Tambi had mentioned a few slides before that you're really building a network here. You're working with people that are working toward that same goal. They are eventually going to be experts in this field. You're also going to be working with the faculty. They're excellent responding to the needs of students. Not only our faculty, but I'll even highlight just the student support services. We're very good at making sure that students' needs are met and that we're responding to them in an expedient amount of time. But we also make sure that that cohort-driven component to the program is there, because it's great to have that sort of support with your classmates. And then lastly, professionalize your skill set in different vocational opportunities. So this really just ties it all together. This is going to be a means to solidify your critical thinking skills so as to advance in your position, or maybe if it's that you're looking to enter into a position, whether it's within a missionary position or something outside of that. This is just a great program where you'll be able to enhance those critical thinking skills and get those expert tools and that expert education that's needed. So that covers the Master's in Psychology program. So I'm going to kick it over to one of my colleagues to go over the next program.
Thanks, Greg. This is Julie again. And I'd like to share a bit about our online hybrid Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. The main takeaway for counseling is that you will become a licensed mental health professional so as to be able to help individuals, couples, families reach flourishing through talk therapy. This is, the main thing that counselors do, as opposed to, a clinical psychologist. I get that question a lot, and Tambi will talk more about that in the next slide, but this is like the main aspect of our work as a counselor, although there are other things that you can do with a degree. This is the principal one. Some of the highlights of our program is that through our training, you will have an online experience. This was designed, as I said, as an online hybrid. It is not retrofitted to accommodate any pandemic. This is how it was designed, and it's designed very well. You will, as you move through your studies, be able to choose an internship to reflect your particular area of interest and the kind of counseling work you'd like to do, whether that's, addictions, trauma, marriage, and family. We do have a director of internship who will work very closely with each student to help secure an internship placement in your area. This is done in person in your area, again, based on your interest. Our internship placement is 100%. So you will get an internship in your studies, and we will help you with it. As a counseling student at Divine Mercy University, you will also work closely with our core faculty, some of them highlighted in our previous slide. They are all practicing and experienced clinicians, so they do understand what their students need to learn to live out a vocation as a counselor and a mental health professional. Through our counseling studies, you obviously will gain that nuanced understanding of the person that Tambi highlighted in our Catholic Christian meta model of the person. You will be able to help your clients reach flourishing even if they never want to talk about God. So you will be able to integrate your faith and your understanding of the objective truth of who we are and how we were created to help your clients, again, reach flourishing through talk therapy. This degree also prepares you for licensing in your state as a mental health professional. Licensing is a process that happens after you graduate, although we will give you assignments as you move through your studies that relate to licensing to make sure that you understand the process and that you're headed in the right direction. So I would love to share more in detail with you about this program. You can reach out to Steve. He's also an expert in counseling, or to myself. Either of us would be happy to go deeper and to talk more in depth about each of these elements of the counseling program. Tambi is going to talk with you about the doctorate in clinical psychology. If you have specific questions about counseling that you would like to pop into the chat, we can address those at the end as well.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. So we're just going to dive in a little bit here and talk about our PsyD in clinical psychology program. This program really is the founding program of the university. This is sort of where it all began, and we have really enjoyed a great growth of this program. What I'm going to start out with here, again, I encourage you to read the points in front of you. Again, they're a little wordy, but it was really important to me that we share here as much as we can to really help you understand these programs. So The thing I want to start with is the first point, which Julie talked a little bit about counseling and sort of the talk therapy kind of being the central attribute, if you will, of the counseling program. And she mentioned, but I'd share a little bit more about how that differs and is just different and unique from the PsyD program. So in the PsyD program, as a clinical psychologist, a future clinical psychologist, the focus is really on learning how to diagnose and treat more severe mental health challenges, severe trauma, bipolar disorder, things of that nature. And how that's really done is through clinical assessment and psychological testing. That really is a hallmark of the program. Excuse me, you guys, I do apologize here. My voice is failing me a little bit. But what I want to expound on is specifically understanding psychological testing and assessment. That is very much a data-driven component of this program. It's a first step. So clinical assessment and psychological testing are, again, data-driven components. You do have to really engage this deeply. It's a lot of learning. There's numerous classes that focus on psychological testing and assessment. And again, this is a hallmark of clinical psychology. You don't find clinical assessment and testing implemented really at all in other areas like counseling and social work, for example. It really is a hallmark of this program. It really does begin the process for you as a clinician to first, administer those tests and assessments. Then you are getting feedback from those assessments, and then you can make a diagnosis, if applicable, and develop a full-scale treatment plan, which you then enact. So there's a lot of steps here with that process, but that really is, again, something very unique for clinical psychology. So I always tell folks, if you get excited about data, if you like the idea of conducting psychological testing and assessments, that's a really good sign that this could be a program that's for you. Again, as you read through the bullets here, I want to add some additional things to this. I want to talk a little bit about the program itself, in addition to what you see here in front of you. This is a 5-year on-site program. It is located here in Sterling, Virginia right now. Even with COVID, we made some provisions, but this per APA accreditation, this program is an in-person, face-to-face program. So it is important to understand that that is different from the other two programs that we've explored. This one does ask you to move to Sterling, Virginia, and really engage for 5 years in this very intensive program that really is very rigorous and very, very rich in clinical assessment, psychological testing, therapeutic and clinical understanding, as well, of course, academic work included in that. So this is also a master's to doctorate program. So everyone here begins in a master's in clinical psychology, again, a non-practitioner-based master's that automatically moves right on into the PsyD program. It is seamless. You move right from one into the other. So you're getting, when you graduate, you're actually getting a master's and a doctorate both in clinical psych. A couple other hallmarks of this program is this is a program where your faculty are dedicated to you as a future practitioner. This is a different aspect compared to a PhD program. In a PhD program, individuals are often more assisting faculty with research initiatives that the university already has going forth. That is very different a PsyD program. A PsyD program is a practitioner-based program. And if you go back to the meta model for DMU, and again, our whole goal is to help with human flourishing and healing, that is where the PsyD is integral to that, as opposed to a PhD. Again, we are all about putting people out into the world to help with healing and to help with flourishing and to be catalysts for that, in fact. So again, that's why this is a PsyD program. And for you, what that means is rather than you necessarily assisting faculty with their research, it's actually the reverse, which is a really beautiful thing. Our faculty are completely dedicated to you and to your interests and to developing you as a fantastic and well-educated practitioner from right out the gate when you graduate 5 years later. So again, very important attribute to understand that this is really a student centered program as opposed to a faculty research centered program. So you get to do your own research through your dissertation. Even when it comes to exploring externships and trying to finding maybe your talents or your specialty, your faculty are really trying to help you discover that. Because again, keep in mind the mission there is to put out, if you will, into the world individuals to help with healing and flourishing. And that's a little bit about how we do that. A couple other points before I close out this slide. I do want to share that We do have in the 5th year a pre-doc internship. It's again a very important part of our program. I do describe that as being similar to like residency for a medical doctor. Again, I think our world tends to be pretty familiar with that concept, so it's a good comparison. So the 5th year of the PsyD program is kind of like residency. So you do go out into a full-time placement, out into somewhere in the United States, could be anywhere, and you apply to those placement locations. The takeaway that I want you all to have today is that we also have 100% internship placement for this program. And that is huge. The average placement for PsyD programs is 75% nationwide. We are 100% placement. And right now, we have a huge focus on helping our students secure APA accredited internships. And we're really excited about that. Every year, that placement factor for APA, specifically APA accredited internships, go up. And I think we're sitting somewhere in the 80s right now, and possibly looking to grow that this year. We've already had round 1 of placements, and our first round of placements for this current 5th year, or I should say rising 5th year students, their externship placements, pre-doc internship placements just came out in round 1. And so far, round 1, 100% have placed in APA accredited internship sites. And again, that's just huge. And that goes back to something that Julie shared before, is that we were one of those, one of 2 schools to get full accreditation by APA with the first try. So you really are getting a program here that is very much academically rich, clinically rich, with faculty devoted to your success. And if you have any questions about this, please pop them in the chat and on any of these programs, and we're all happy to try to answer them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tambi. Yeah, absolutely. Please ask any questions that you have about any of these programs. We'll make sure to answer all of them. So just to highlight, we went over the programs. Although I do want to go back to the poll, since we now have the we have the final results with that. So hopefully you can see that in front of your screen. Looks like the listening with empathy was number 1 at 55%, beating out second with helping others flourish. Number 3 was or actually tied in 3rd place. Not that I like to place these, but these are the ones that you guys all voted on: giving advice and then also solving complex problems. So thank you all for contributing to this poll. Okay, so going back to these programs, this is just sort of a summary of what we discussed with a little bit more information. So first, starting with the Master's in Psychology program, as I mentioned, this one is 100% online. It's asynchronous from beginning to end. And then it's also regionally accredited. And then this program is 36 credit hours. It can be completed between 16 to 28 months. Really depends on the track that you choose. Ultimately, depending on how many hours per week would work within your schedule, and that's something that you'll be able to decide on. And then also, in order to be eligible to apply, you must have at least a 2.5 GPA. And then, of course, as we mentioned, this is a non-licensure track. It's great for those that want to use this degree to advance in their skills, want to add to their credentials. It is what we would call a helping degree. It's for helping professionals. And then with the second program, the Master's in Counseling, as Julie highlighted, this one is online. It's hybrid. And so what that means is that all the courses would be done online. And then you're also going to have a few face-to-face components. You'll have 3 residencies, which take place on campus. So that will take place here in Sterling, Virginia. And then you do also have some field experience as well. This will prepare you for entering into the field. And then also, like the Master's in Psychology program, this one is also regionally accredited. And then this one is 66 credit hours. And so the time frame of completing the program would be 32 months. And then in order to be eligible, you must have a 3.0 GPA from your previous degree. Plus, you also must complete the GRE. And then also, this one is a licensure track. It will prepare you to become a licensed professional counselor and going into the field, as Julie mentioned, to practice with talk therapy and work with different clients. And then lastly, the PsyD and Clinical Psychology program. This one, as Tambi mentioned, is 100% residential. So you'll be on campus full-time with your colleagues, with the students, with the faculty, participating in the program this way. You'll have the residencies, which will take place here, the field experience, which she had mentioned could be in different locations, but this is, the program is face-to-face. Along with that, this program is APA accredited. So this is really what's needed within a clinical psychology program. So this will help solidify your preparation to go into the field as a clinician. And this is also 122 credit. As Tammy mentioned, it's estimated to be completed in 5 years. And then also to be eligible, you must have a 3.0 GPA from your background, plus completing the GRE. And then, of course, as I mentioned, this will prepare you to become licensed within this field as a clinical psychologist. But of course, one thing I will also highlight, and this is just going back to our strength, is that all of these programs, what they share in common would be the Catholic Christian teaching of the human person. That meta model is embedded into the curriculum. So you'll have that deep understanding of the social sciences, but also that theological component. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague to go over the next slide.
Okay, thank you, Greg. And this is Steve again, and we're just going to take a listen to a testimonial from one of our students.
I chose to register at Divine Mercy University because I wanted a holistic view of psychology. I wanted to be able to study things and research things that I felt supported in my faith. There are people in my cohort who were in other programs at public universities and they felt stifled. They felt stifled in their studies because they weren't able to truly integrate their Catholic faith. Divine Mercy University allows me to be myself. I can study the effect of abortion on the family without fearing that my professors are going to judge me for my pro-life stance. I feel supported. I feel 100% supported in the research that I'm doing, not just on post-abortive men and women, but also the siblings who have lost a sibling to abortion. So I'm thankful that my program allows me to integrate my Catholic faith into my studies in a holistic way, so I can look at the issue with both a psychological lens and a philosophical and a theological lens. If it weren't for the Divine Mercy University model, I wouldn't feel like I would be able to successfully pursue what I feel called to research, and I don't feel like I would be able to minister properly to the people that I'm ministering to, like me, who have lost a sibling to abortion.
Okay, a couple important takeaways from that is, you'll learn that you don't have to separate your upbringing and your religious beliefs in order to become that person to assist in another person's healing. I mean, our faculty are counselors, and they respect the human dignity of their clients. And no matter what program you go into, that program will incorporate the modern sciences, the social, the psychological, the behavioral, those tools that you'll have in your toolbox to be able to heal. It'll incorporate those tools with the over 2,000 years of Catholic Christian teaching on human dignity to give you that educational foundation to be able to heal from within, allowing that person to flourish and not just treat the behavior. So, Tambi?
Thanks, Steve. So in this slide here, we just wanted to share with you just a few of the student research topics that you might see, whether you're in a master's in psychology program, which is the first point here listed, which does have a capstone project. Again, that's so that our students can focus on their personal research interests. And then below that, you'll see 2 points that share a couple of PsyD dissertation topics. So again, this is just to give you an idea of the kinds of things here that our students do pursue. I want to encourage you to go to our website, and we actually have all of our dissertation topics listed under our library page there. And it's actually really interesting to see the kinds of things that our students will pursue as they're conducting their own research, and really just seeing to fruition their ideas and their curiosities that they have in regards to their work and their future as a mental health professional. So we don't need to spend necessarily a whole lot of time here, but I did want to just share with you, again, a few of those topics and the kinds of things that we do work on here at DMU. It's important to share that while certainly we don't require you to have a topic related to kind of integration, you'll see here that these three, in fact, are. Again, it's not a requirement but by the nature of our program, the nature of our students, the very sincere interest that they have in authentic human flourishing and healing, it does lead them to oftentimes select topics that are more integration related. So you will see definitely, a heavy theme of integration related topics when it comes to capstones and to PsyD dissertations.
Okay, now we just have 3 graduates that I'd just like to highlight, one from each program. I mean, Susie there, the master's in psychology, is now at Focus headquarters, and she's the senior manager of staff care. She's kind of the missionary for the missionaries. And through the program, I mean, as a transformational leader, she is using all those advanced professional skills learned in the program to kind of assist and enable the growth of the team and those she comes in contact with. And of course, Adele works in the youth ministry for the diocese, and she's using all of those professional counseling skills to engage the members of the diocese as an effective leader and facilitate the flourishing and personal transformation. And finally, Greg, he actually is the founder of the Catholic Psych Institute. And, he used the many skills gained in the program to kind of gather a full team of Catholic therapists. And those therapists help to heal those in need. And really, his statement about his team and the Institute really says it all. And that is healing the body, mind, and spirit with psychologists you can trust.
Great. Thanks, Steve. So let's talk. This is the reality check, people. This is where the rubber hits the road. Graduate school is not free, but the good news is that it is affordable. So we have a number of ideas for ways to make the various degree programs affordable. We participate fully with the federal loan program. So if you felt like you wanted or needed a student loan, we can certainly help you with that. If, as you're in school, you're working, many employers do offer tuition reimbursement. So this is a great way to go, and you should certainly check into that to see if that's a benefit that your employer might offer. Also, for those of you who are in the military or are part of a military family, we do participate with the VA. We also work with the GI Bill. We're also a yellow ribbon school. So if you have those benefits or if they can be assigned to you, we participate with all of those. But wait, there's more. We here at DMU have a very nice scholarship program available. Our scholarships can be viewed online at that link there. They're designed very nicely so that everybody qualifies for something. So the way our scholarship program works is you can apply for 4 scholarships. You can accept 2. So that's a great way to go for people who don't happen to have a partnership with DMU. If you are a member of Focus or one of our partner dioceses, or participate with another one of our partner groups, which will kind of show you a few of them in a later slide, we do have tuition reduction agreements with many of those partners. So the way it works at DMU is you can either apply for scholarships or you can take a tuition reduction through whatever partnership relates to you. You can't do both. So the reason for that is because our discounts for our partners, particularly for Focus, is quite generous. We have to function as an institution. We can't give away our programs for free, unfortunately, but we do give very generous discounts through our partnerships. And scholarships are kind of for people who don't have the benefit of a partnership that Focus might have. So there are some other ways to fund degrees besides scholarships and partnerships. Some people use private funds. Some are blessed in that regard. We do have a matching scholarship available for those who choose the scholarship path. Any nonprofit support that can be found outside of DMU, whether it's church related or not, we would match up to $2,000. If you do go the partnership route, then you're Focus people. You know how to do this fundraising thing. This is your skill set for sure. So as a Catholic counselor trained in this method, you do become quite a valuable resource within a diocese. So for sure, talk with your pastor, talk to your bishop, hit up the Knights of Columbus, and see what support you can find from outside of DMU. We also have a cash plan we can set up internally. So if you are working while you're in school, or if you have your private funds set by and you feel like you can chip away at it a little bit each month, we can set that up for you at no charge. All right, and then they jump to the next slide a little quickly, but that's okay. This is all part of making graduate school affordable. There's an interesting federal program that most people haven't heard of. It's a great way to go if you can work it out. It's called National Health Service Corps, and you see the link down there. If you just search the name National Health Service Corps, it'll pop up first link, I guarantee you. And the way that works is if a graduate is willing to work in an area designated by the government as either low income or underserved for a certain time after graduation, you can receive up to $50,000 toward your tuition cost for your time of service. So, mental health professionals who are licensed have to work under supervision for a time before they go through a provisional licensure period. And so this is a great way to go. Since you have to work under supervision anyway, it's a nice little way to, pay off any student loans or what have you. So it's definitely worth investigating. I encourage you to check that out. So those are our great ideas for ways to make it affordable, and would be happy to discuss them further with you, as on an individual program basis. So I'll turn it over to our next person to talk about partnerships.
Great. Thank you, Julie. So I'm glad that we get to cover this part as well. Julie did a great job at highlighting the different scholarships and ways to reduce your tuition. This is another way of doing it. She had mentioned that we do have partnerships, and ultimately what this would mean is that if you're connected to any of these, this is just an example of some partnerships that we have. We have more that are not even shown here, but Focus, as you see, is one of them. So if you are a Focus student, if you're a Focus student alumni, if you're a student leader or leader alumni, or even a Focus staff or staff alumni, we can reduce your tuition somewhere between, when it comes to Focus, I believe it's between 25 to 33%. There are different partnerships that we do have, and so I know that Focus, we just value them. We have a lot of students that have that connection with Focus, and we've been very happy to work with them and having that partnership so that we can help in making the programs, your tuition, more affordable to you. So, and of course, if, when we get to that point, if you're interested in covering the information one-on-one, just as Julie said, as we're going through these programs, we also want to make sure that we can cover this part as well to see what we can do to make the program more affordable to you when we have that one-on-one. So I will turn it over to my next colleague.
Hi, everyone. This is Tamby here. We do want to go ahead and conclude the webinar here. So just a couple of notes. First of all, if you do want to stay a little bit for a Q&A chat, please do hang out a little longer, and we'll just do that for whoever wants to stick around, and we'll try to get those questions answered. And if you have more, you can go ahead and type those into the chat now, and we will address those here at at the end of the webinar. For those of you who can't stick around, we just want to say a huge thank you for your time. I know Julie mentioned this. I'm a huge fan of Focus. I really just want to share that I personally value your work. Everyone here does as well, has a real personal value for the work and the service that you offer to our world. It's really a great, great gift. And we are very honored to be a partner with Focus and to be able to be with you today and honor you or offer you this discount that's specifically for Focus members. So again, we encourage you to reach out if you have questions. If you would like to go ahead and apply for one of our programs, we are currently accepting applications. And with the code CCMMP1999, you can get a free application. And that CCMMP, just for kicks, that stands for Catholic Christian Meta Model of the Person. And 1999 is for the year we were founded there. So a little bit of fun there in our code, but we do encourage you to go ahead and apply. And also just reach out to us, admissions@divinemercy.edu. That is the email address where you can reach any one of us, and we'll get you to the person most suited for the program that you're looking for. You can also feel free to give us a call, and our phone number is there. But again, a simple thank you and let you know how much we really do value your work. And what we see specifically here, we've had many Focus alumni come through all three of our programs here at Divine Mercy University. And I've had the good fortune of, knowing a lot of those Focus missionaries that have come through our programs, as have others here. And we really can share personally that, and with confidence, that Focus, staff and missionaries make phenomenal practitioners in the areas of psychology and counseling. You really do have the personal formation. You understand service and care of person, and this really is a beautiful, just a beautiful, program and university for you to continue that call to service and care of others, in a more professional setting that can be really lifelong for you. Again, if you feel called to that. So I do again want to thank you. At this point, I do want to also share just a quick update that if you'd like to sign up for a free DMU Rosary for attending, there is a link in the chat where you can actually sign up for that. And we will send you just a little branded DMU Rosary as a way of saying thank you. And again, encouraging recitation of the Rosary and asking for our Blessed Mother's intercession in all of our lives. So again, thank you all for being here. And again, hang out if you'd like. We're going to go ahead and Ebony's going to lead us up, and we're going to try to answer those questions that have been coming through the chat. So for those of you that need to hop off, again, thank you. And we hope to meet with you again soon. All right, so Ebony, can we turn to you? Would you mind just taking a moment and maybe reading some of the questions that we haven't had a chance to answer, and we can just answer them here verbally for folks that want to stick around?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
All
you.
right, so we have so many questions, and it is now 3:03, and we're going to give it until about 3:20, and then we're going to allow everybody to get to their days and jot down this contact information. I also would encourage you to, if the admissions reps can put your emails in the chat, or the main admissions email, please email that if we do not have time to get to you. So the first question that we have is regarding the Master's in Counseling. Will all classes be asynchronous online and then your internship in person?
So the lectures in counseling are available 24/7 whenever it suits you to access the materials. So just like any other online class you might have done, it's there when you're ready to do it. And then what makes it a hybrid is that some aspects are done in person. So your weekend residencies, they're done over a long weekend 3 times as you move through your online studies. And those are done in person on campus here in Virginia. And they're 4 days long, so you arrive on a Wednesday evening and stay through a Sunday afternoon. And then once you finish the bulk of your online classes and you've completed your 3rd residency, you then step into practicum and internship, which are done in your own area based on the kind of counseling work you'd like to do. So some traditional online, and then the hybrid is, what makes it hybrid is the in-person part.
All right, thank you. I believe that's followed up with another question from the same person. Does being a student discipler with Focus count, even if you haven't served as a missionary? I believe that was regarding the tuition discount.
So that's a great question. So just to highlight, So when it comes to the partnerships, when it comes to Focus in particular, it sounds like you're describing a few different individuals or different types of individuals, those that might be leaders within Focus, and then those that might be staff, and then lastly, those that are students. So a discipler, I believe that would be classified as a Focus student. And so if that's the case, you would be qualified for a Focus discount. So we would be able to reduce your tuition as a student to 25% off.
Okay, thank you. We have another question about when you can apply for a future term. I know that we're focusing now on the current term, but would any of the reps like to answer that question?
I'll go ahead and take that one. So yes, you can apply for a future term and again, Steve, Julie, and Greg, jump in if things are a little bit different there for your programs. But we do encourage you, considering what term works best for you. Right now, we are accepting for the summer. If you'd like to apply for a future term, we don't typically, for MSP and for counseling, we typically don't go much over a couple of terms out from the start. But again, the reps are happy to, to work with you individually on, again, what term would be right for you. For the PsyD program, it is just one start a year in the fall, and we accept applications to that program. We actually currently are only doing fall 21 right now, and we will actually close out that application, and we'll do a relaunch for that in the summertime, and we will accept applications all the way through next spring for fall 22. So it does vary a little bit with program. But again, anything, I would say, and as a general rule, anything more than a year out for like MSP and counseling, we probably just ask you to connect with a rep, get your information, but I don't know that we would encourage application more than a couple of terms out, if that makes sense, just so that you can be fully prepared. And again, standards do change with accreditation. We have to regularly update things. So we do prefer to kind of keep things within roughly a 6 to 9 month period for application within that time frame for a start. I hope that helps.
Yes, I think that was helpful, at least for me. I believe those are most of the questions. I'm surprised we got through them all. We'll give just a few more minutes to allow any last minute questions. You can put those in the chat or in the Q&A box. And I want to mention that if you look in the chat box, you can see the direct email addresses for our Masters in Counseling, Masters in Psychology representatives. If you're not able to see those, feel free to just jot down the admissions@divinemercy.edu and our telephone number. Okay, we have a confirmation question. The application deadline for fall 2021 for Masters in Counseling.
We have the opportunity to take applications for the fall, but as Tambi said, we are focused on the summer semester. I'd recommend, if you're looking to apply for the fall for counseling, contact either Julie or myself so we can get a little more details from you to better assist you moving into the right time slot for your semester start. So contact either Julie or myself. We have our emails up there, or go back and contact us on the number on the screen or through the admissions email.
Thank you, Steve. And I do want to make a note that our Masters in Counseling is often waitlisted. So it gets filled up really early. So the sooner that you apply, the better, because you'll also be qualified for our early admission scholarship for that term. So I would say go ahead and get that application done.
Amen to that, sister.
All right, so let's see. Are there any challenges working within the secular model of psychology for the Catholic Christian meta model that DMU offers for graduates of the program or for faculty preparing students to work in the psychology or counseling spaces? How does DMU help with some of these challenges? And I'm not one of the admissions representatives or faculty here, but I will say that it was not to a detriment at all. It will always be an added skill that you would have over other people that you can incorporate at any time when you feel that it's necessary for your client to have that healing that they really need. So I couldn't foresee any challenges. Maybe if you want to work in a particular environment, that can be encouraged if you want to hone in on that particular audience. But I'm going to also kick this over to Tambi to provide an answer as well, because I feel that she's been here the longest for sure.
Thanks, Ebony. And again, the reps, if you guys have anything to add, feel free. But in general, I would say that Ebony's absolutely right. One of the things that we really focus on here, and again, if you kind of think back to the slides, we first of all focus on professional training. Here, we believe very sincerely and deeply in the science of psychology and counseling. And we also believe simultaneously with the value that integration brings forth, and the two come together. And you think of two links in a chain, all right? And so one is not necessarily more important than the other. They're both fundamental specifically to the work that we do here. One of the things that we really focus on is professional training as a part of those two links. It's not just integration focused. We're also deeply, deeply invested in high quality, high caliber academic training and clinical training for our students so that they can go out and compete very, very well. Certainly, I would say integration just does nothing but add to your work. I don't know, again, how much more I can add to that, but it's because we focus so much as well on keeping you very educated and bringing you out as a top professional with excellent skills. I don't believe that that's really an inhibitor. Further, when it comes into practice, what I've seen directly and mostly with my larger experience is with the PsyD program, which I would say is probably the field. Counseling actually tends to be a bit more accepting of a religious or a spiritual perspective. Just in general, counseling's a little bit more open. Clinical psychology is the area that can tend to be a little bit more, there can be more sticklers on that one. But even in psychology, there's a large recognition now that a spiritual aspect, if you will, is necessary and frankly even sought out by a significant number of clients. So you're actually seeing practices today trying to intentionally include that to diversify the scope of practice that they can offer clients coming in. So that's where a DMU graduate comes in, because first of all, not only are you phenomenally trained, again, no matter what program that you do, but further, you do have this integration piece, and you know how, again, as we mentioned earlier, we could do it indirectly or directly. You know how to go both ways. So you can deal with that client who's like, hey, I really want to bring this forth in therapy or in counseling, or it can be more subtle, and it's something that you kind of simply work with in an indirect way with your client. So I really and sincerely believe, and through data, that this is an area which only helps you as opposed to hurts you. But it's a great question. I hope that answers it.
All right. Thank you, Tambi. The next question is, do you have a child clinical psychology program? And I'll allow Tambi to add to it. But I do know we have particular adolescent courses that are incorporated. There are children assessments that our students learn. And even Dr. Nordling, who we mentioned earlier, is specialized in child therapy, and we also have those trainings in our clinic on campus. So I did want to say that you will learn all of those skills, and you're able to specialize as you see fit. Tambi, I'm sure you have more information as well.
I think that you really did cover it there. And both of our programs, actually all three, we don't have specifically specializations. That what you're going to find is that's actually characteristic of many programs out there. We're trying to train you holistically. And certainly you can specialize later. A lot of these programs, that's what you do, is you actually do specialization down the road a little bit once you get further experience. You can emphasize, if you will. So for example, if I'm a student in the counseling program or the PsyD program and I want to work with perhaps eating disorders, I can actually seek out in an externship or in an internship that kind of work. And that can help give an emphasis to my work without necessarily a specialization. And again, we are so fortunate here to have Dr. Nordling. So he does have, again, I think it's important to note that a lot of programs don't focus at all on child play therapy in either program. We're really fortunate to have him here. So specifically to you in child psychology, again, while we don't have the specialty, we actually have an in-house expert. So you really get some experience that frankly other programs, many programs don't have. So certainly a helpful asset there for you. Again, I hope that answers that question for you.
All righty. So the last question today is related to commitment of study hours and class work hours online or on campus for our program. So I'm going to allow each rep to kind of jump in, share what those commitments look like so that you can be successful, an AB honor roll student. What would that look like? So let's start with the master's in psychology.
Okay, great. That's a great question. Especially with the Master's in Psychology program being, there are 3 different tracks of completing it. This really can vary. So you're asking an excellent question about what would it look like on a weekly basis as far as time commitment into the program. So let me break this down a little bit more. Within the Master's in Psych program, as I mentioned, there are 3 different tracks. You have the option to complete the program in 28 months. You have the option to complete it in 20 months, and then you have the option to complete it in 16 months. And so if you're doing the 28-month track, that means you're doing 1 course every term, each term being 8 weeks. Typically, students are committing about 15 to 18 hours per week toward their study time. If you're doing the 20-month track, then that means that you're probably committing about 18 to 25 hours per week. So it's a little bit more rigorous. It's great for those that might be a little bit more intensive with their studies, maybe that you have a little bit more time on your hands to complete it. And so you're looking to expedite the time a little bit more. And then you have, with the 16-month track, this is the most rigorous approach. So this is great for those that really can commit this time. So if you're doing it this way, you'd be committing about 25 to 30 hours per week. And so we have these options because we have a lot of students that this is what they do full time. And then we have other students that they work full time. And so this is, the 28-month track is something that's a little bit more accessible to them. And so again, 28 months, 15 to 18 hours per week, 20 months, 18 to 25 hours per week, and then 16 months, 25 to 30 hours per week. So that answers for the Master's in Psych program. I'll turn it over to Julie or Steve.
All right. So the flexibility of the Master's in Counseling program allows you to go through the program part-time or as a full-time student. And going part-time, you're going to take 1 class at a time, and you can figure on putting in somewhere between 18 and 20 hours a week. Of course, you realize that that's spread across a 7-day period, which, you can calculate out how much time you'd be putting in each day. Now, as a full-time student, you'll be going through the program and you'll be taking, at times, 2 courses simultaneously during your 8-week term. And taking 2 courses as a full-time student, you're going to put in somewhere between 36 and 40 hours a week. As I said, depending on, we say the average student, and all of us always smile because we try to figure we haven't found the average student yet. But if you go back and contact Julie or myself, we'll be able to probably, in conversations with you, find out and fine tune those hours. But that's just a ballpark figure for the average student. And I'll turn it over to you, Tamby.
Okay, so the PsyD program we've already discussed. I mean, it's a full-time program. So I'm going to keep my answer for that pretty short. The PsyD program is what I would call a temporary vocation. You really do come into the program, really turning your life over to the work of pursuing the doctorate in clinical psychology to become a future psychologist. So it is full-time. It's very intensive. Again, it's actually somewhat accelerated. You are getting a master's and a doctorate, 122 credit hours, and 3 years of externship experience and a 4th year of internship experience and a dissertation in 5 years. So does anyone else think that's busy? I think it makes my head spin a little bit thinking about it. So we really do ask our students to give their full time to this pursuit. And it's like a full-time job, basically. And so we don't, we ask our students not to work and whatnot during this program, again, because it is a full-time program. And that is very much indicative of the PsyD clinical psychology pursuit. I mean, not just DMU, but any other PsyD program. So again, I hope that answers that question for you.
I want to just thank everyone for attending. Encourage you to have a great day, and go ahead and get those applications in. Use that discount code, save that $55. That is what it is attributed to. You will save $55. And we want to also mention that if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to help you. So thanks again for your time, and this recording will be sent to you all via email. Feel free to share it or do with it what as you like. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again. Bye-bye, everyone.